Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training demands a tremendous amount of power, endurance, and technique. The competition is tough, and you need every possible advantage. To be victorious on the mat, you must push your skills to the highest level by using complete mind and body control. Mario Roberto's BJJ Specialist. Take your grappling to the next level by learning sick stuff like the back triangle, an outstanding yet rarely taught move that's sure to catch your opponents blindsided. The bear trap. The best move is the one they don't see coming. Let the bear trap become your calling card. The S-mount. Finally, a mount attack system that baffles even skilled opponents. Blast right through their defense. The base position. Slice through your opponent's guard like a hot knife through butter. Become a BJJ specialist. Get straight to the point instruction. Use new, rarely seen techniques. Surprise your opponents with high percentage moves that work. See results right away. Mario Roberto is by far second to none, says UFC veteran Tommy the Farm Boy Spear. Mario Roberto has helped me tremendously, says UFC veteran Travis View. Get each set individually for $49 or get all 4 sets for the price of 3 at $147. These DVDs are guaranteed to blow your mind, so don't put it off. Get it now.
So for these next ones, some people are just doing a hip toss, and so we're going to do, instead of the leg sweep, we're going to do the hip toss next. I just want to show you one little way. It seems like everyone here knows a hip toss really well. That's good. I'm going to show you one little, maybe 2 little pointers that'll help you get it more. So if I have an underhook here, and the guy's hips are back, like he doesn't want me to do anything to him, One of the things that we do in wrestling, and particularly Greco-Roman, if you want to get the guy's hips, is you step forward like towards the zone and you pull back. So instead of like chasing his hips, because that's dangerous, you can get chucked straight over the guy. You step and you pull the guy back into you. And when I pull the guy here, I slide him up that ramp, basically, I make with my quad. So go ahead and back your hips away a little bit. Okay, and he's got real good pressure down over my underhook. In fact, it's like almost sliding off his body. I don't like that. It's good for him, but it's hard for me to use my underhook. So what I'm going to do is slide him to the side so I can lift my underhook up. So I'm going to step my leg here, and I'm going to pull him up this way. So now my underhook arm's way up. Okay, and while it's here, I'm going to take advantage and come down and grab his far hip. Okay, this is going to prime my hip toss here. So as he tries to get away, I hop my hips in and throw. So it's a way to get, hip tosses are tough to do from this kind of overhook or underhook, because sometimes like wrestlers are taught to get your overhook down behind his elbow and wing it in, and that'll like with his underhook arm. Like if a guy underhooks me and he starts to try to do something, I'm going to try to do that to his arm so he can't use it. Okay, to prevent that, I can pull him in and grab his hip. Now he can't get behind my elbow. Okay, I hold this wrist or this elbow, whichever one. Okay, and I'm going to just hop my feet in there facing the way I came from. So I'm going to do a quick 180-degree turn and put my feet together and bend my knees. Okay, and I'm looking left and down. Okay, cool. All right? It's hard to do slow. Chest to chest position, pull him in, grab his hip. That was a little nicer.
That was good.
You had to just miss it.
I know, I saw that. I was like, am I gonna go head first?
He tucked his head, that's perfect. That's why we do those shoulder rolls. He's like, it's just in time. I saw that too, I was like, disaster. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you was a crunch headlock, or you can swing the crunch headlock and sag headlock.
Sounds painful.
The crunch headlock is if I really do it, yeah, it sucks. It sucks bad. But if I'm here and I try to like go for any move basically, and the guy starts to back out, I try a snap down, but he lifts up too quick. Okay, so let's say that I go for a single, he pulls out, and I try to snap down, he lifts up real quick. What I can do from this position, I lost my chest to chest tie up, but I still have an underhook. So I can collar tie him. Okay, this is probably where you guys wind up. But what you want to do is, when you collar tie, take the palm and put it right this way. So you got this bone against his neck. Okay, and that kind of that keeps your elbow in. That's the reason you're doing it. You don't want your elbow out. You want it right, exactly. You want it in. So I'm going to grab his head, but keep my elbow in. I'm going to lift his underhook and come to here. Okay, so now I have a headlock of sorts. And what I'm going to do, it's kind of a weird technique. You ready? I'm going to kind of try to smash your nose.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so what I do is I take my collarbone and I try to find his nose a little bit. And I push it up into his face. And I swing his nose down and underneath. Okay?
That was fun.
You okay?
Yep.
You good? So what I'm doing is I'm lifting his face up like that with a collarbone and pinching his neck down. And I want to crunch him right on. I want to make him buckle right underneath me. And if you get it right, it works. If you don't get it right, you sag headlock the other direction. So that's the beauty of it. Okay, so I went for something, I lost this. I come in here for a tap, and I keep this hand, this collar tie hand facing me. I come underneath it and lock. Okay, it's this kind of lock. It's just basically a butterfly, but I'm only on the hand. No fingers or nothing like that. Just hide your thumb so you can't peel on a thumb. Okay, underhook elbow is up. Okay, I don't want to pinch down. He could try to pinch it down, but it won't really do anything once my hands are locked. Okay, now what I do is I take my clavicle right here, try to find this or this with it. And you guys kind of feel. What I do is just sink down and slide back up, and it'll get caught. Now I'm going to take my hands and go like this. And push my chest up into him. And try to basically, as I do that, I start backing up. Okay, I start backing up and circling backwards under the underhook, kind of like we did on the snap down, and that'll make him like go like that, and then you put him on his back. Okay, here. Okay, right to his back. This one is pretty tight. If it doesn't work, the beauty of it is the sag headlock. Okay, so the way, if the guy's smart, how do you release pressure? If the guy's circling you to the left, you just circle to the left faster and he's pulling you. So if I'm here and Dave doesn't want me to get pressure, he starts circling faster. Well, the bad part for him is if I try to pull this way and he circles real fast to the right, I can turn my hips this way and pull him to the left. Okay, so I let it go and set up right into the headlock the opposite direction. Okay, here, crunch headlock first. Pull him this way, sound effects, and bring the hips in and right down. Yeah, that's right. You hear that? Okay, give those a try. There's 3 more to play with. Thanks, Dave. Oh, feel it go. And so I'll just start dragging it back. Yeah, try this. It doesn't necessarily hurt the nose. Yeah, the neck. Junior high coach taught me that. And we're the guy circles through this. You slip your lock from here to there. Boom! And go flying right over there. Okay. So in any kind of combat sport, one of the things that's going to happen a lot is you're going to get tied up in an upper body tie-up, whether it's the position we just went over at length and learned about 15 moves from, which is chest to chest or a clinch position, or a more common, which we call in wrestling a collar tie position, which is it could be a collar tie with one arm and an inside tie or outside tie with the other arm, or it can be a double collar tie, which in wrestling would be a stall move, and that would be prevented by the referee. They would stop you from doing it. But in martial arts, that happens all the time. So we have a lot of strategies, particularly in Division I wrestling, to beat the collar tie. In other words, if a guy collar ties me here, I need to get myself to where I have something that he doesn't. Right now, he has the exact same thing I have. And so it's a stalemate position, nothing's going to happen, he's going to rest. What I want is for him to get tired. I don't want him to rest. So what you can do, there are simple strategies. If you look at the shape of a guy's body, what you can wear on the best is typically his hamstrings and his lower back and his neck. So the way you do that is not by pushing a guy backwards. It's actually by pulling him into you and pulling him down. So what I'm going to do here is either hook his elbow or grab his arm or circle inside and grab an inside tie and start to pull down on it, just slightly. Okay, and Dave will tell you here that if we have a collar tie and we're just leaning here into each other, we could both do this for approximately 3 days before anybody decides they're tired. But if I just start doing this, okay, now all I'm doing is leaning on him but pulling him forward, and so his back is starting to arch more and more, or starting to hunch over more and more. So his hamstrings are working, his neck's working, and eventually his arms are going to start working because he's not going to like the position. All I'm doing is holding on and starting to lower my level and lean my weight onto him. So you can have an effect on a guy over the course of a 10-minute match that you wouldn't have if you didn't apply that, what we call heavy wrestling or heavy ties. So starting off, I just wanted to emphasize the point that everything you do in a tie-up, you want to pull down and pull the guy forward. And that leans him this way and starts to strain his lower back and his hamstrings. Later in the match, that can come in key because that guy's not going to be as energetic. He's not going to be as explosive, readily able to react to quick movements because he's going to be fatigued and tired and want the match to be over. So everything that I'm about to show would be best applied, best used if that downward forward pull is applied to it. Okay, so what we're going to do first is try to beat the collar tie. This is a simple way to beat a collar tie is to circle inside. Okay, so right now we're in a dead even position. I have a collar, he has a collar. I'm going to grab his elbow. Let's say he's got my elbow. One way I can beat his collar tie is to just take my hand and bring it in between his arm and my face. Okay, a lot of times this is going to be really tight. Okay, so I gotta squeeze that in there, just like this. Once I get it past my face, a lot of people want to try to, are tempted to try to push that arm away from their head. Okay, that's pretty hard to do because he can pull really tight and he's already in a strong position. I can't push very hard from this clammed up position. So the best thing to do is actually hold your arm still and back up. Okay, and actually move your body away. So now he doesn't have my head, but I still have his. Okay, so that's one way to get him off of the collar tie. Okay, we call it circling inside. We're here, I'm just going to circle my hand inside and back up. Okay, and now I got an inside tie, which is good for me, and I have a collar tie, which is good for me. Okay, one more time. I circle inside. And sometimes that, like Dave may, if Dave's a former wrestler, he's probably going to know that if he pinches that elbow really tight, it's going to be hard for me to circle inside. Okay, so there are a number of different techniques that I can use. The one that I'm going to use right now, I'm going to turn my head towards his temple and then squeak my hand in. So he's pinching real tight, and I just turn my head towards his temple, and now there's a little hole, and then I move it back. Okay, so I'm going to create a gap for my hand. Once my hand's there, I'm going to create a gap so that he can't control my head anymore. Okay, that's going to be helpful. This is all part of the hand fighting process and the tie-up positioning. Okay, another way is if, let's say we want to get an underhook. Okay, and if I was in a position where, okay, I like an underhook, but the guy keeps grabbing my head, how can I get to an underhook? Okay, so in this position, I want to get rid of his collar tie and actually gain an underhook at the same time. There's two ways that I can tell you, or three actually, that I can tell you to do this. One of them is really simple, and it's just to grab an underhook. And what I did is, I'm actually looking at his arm. His arm's right here, and I see my arm. And what I want to do is bring my hand inside of his elbow, and I just want to see my elbow slightly inside of his. So from the top, it looks like this. He's turned this way, and I'm looking at his arm, and I want to take my elbow just inside his, just like that. And once I catch his elbow just in the crook of my elbow, I lift my elbow up. Okay, so we're right here. I just come in like this, and then I slide my elbow up, and I have a good strong underhook where I'm pulling his shoulder down, and I have my elbow pointed towards the horizon. Okay, now I have an underhook and a collar tie. This is a dominant position compared to this. Okay, here we're even. Here I have two advantages, he has nothing. Okay? Another way to get to an underhook from a collar tie is just reach in top of this, in top of the elbow, pop his elbow out, and then slide your arm under. Okay? And this comes in handy when a guy will do that really tight tie-up with his elbow inside like this, and he's blocking you from circling inside. Okay, I can't get inside, so I'll grab his elbow and pull it out. And once I pull it out and off my head, like that, I slide my arm up and under. Okay, so let's review these two. To get an underhook, I can either slide my arm right underneath and slip into an underhook. Okay, that one's sneaky. It works really well if you do it soft, and then hard right at the very end. Okay, if you try to muscle it, a lot of times they'll pinch that arm down. And so instead of giving up altogether on the underhook, what you can do is come in, grab the top of his elbow as he's pinching it inward. Go ahead, Dave. And I'll pull it out and slide my arm up and underneath it. Okay? So those are two ways to get an underhook. The third way would be from a collar tie for the opponent, but you actually have to come out of your collar tie to do it. So if I wanted to get an underhook, let's say maybe an underhook in a wrist position, all right, and I was going to forfeit my, or let go of my collar tie, then I could do this technique where the guy has the collar tie and I push away from him a little bit. He's going to be squeezing, he's going to be trying to hold me, but if I let go, there's nothing saying that I have to collar tie him back. So this creates a little bit of an awkward position for him. Where here, he feels comfortable. Don't you, Dave? Mm-hmm. If I do this, do you feel comfortable? No. It's kind of like, well, what just happened? Right? Well, if I'm in this position, it's very easy for me to get an underhook. All I have to do is pop his elbow out with my old collar tie hand. Okay, I bring that off of here. Pop his elbow out to the side and bring my arm up. So if I'm gonna abandon the collar tie once I get the underhook, it's best to just do that right in the beginning and use that hand to get the underhook. And then I can attack this far wrist and step in. Okay? So let's review all three of those once. Okay? Number one is the little sneaky one where you just slip your arm right underneath his, get your elbow right in between or inside of his, and then lift it up. Number two, he pinches in when you try to do that, so you come up over top of his elbow, pull it to the outside, and then slide your underhook in. And this one has to be done fast. It looks probably more like this if I did it live. Go pinch that elbow one, Dave. Okay, it's fast and jerky because it's a power move. Okay, and then the last one is, let's see, he's pinching in there, but I want to abandon my collar tie anyway. So I'm going to pull back and put my head in front of him. Pop his elbow out, punch an underhook. Okay? All right. Another move that wrestlers like to do when a guy collar ties is a Russian arm tie. Okay? There are a couple of variations from Russian arm tie, but the general theory is that the guy has your head and you're going to guide his arm past your head, in front of your head. It seems like your head would get in the way. But if we're here in a collar tie and I decide I'm going to let go of that collar tie, I take my shoulder and I shrug it. I bull my neck, and then I'm going to take my forearm and I like to bump it right up and underneath Dave's tricep here in the back. And my hand that was a collar tie hand is going to come down to catch or receive that wrist. And as I turn, that hand comes off of my head. Try to hold on to my head there, Dave. So that hand comes right past the head. I catch his wrist and I have a 2-on-1. Now a 2-on-1 is a position that wrestlers would like. In martial arts, the guy has one free hand, so it could be a disadvantage if you don't use it right away. So what I'm going to show later on off of this, right now we're just using it as a way to clear a collar tie, beat a collar tie. But what I'll show in a little bit here is a couple ways to use that immediately when you get it, so the guy never has a chance to strike you with his free hand or anything. Okay, but again, we're in a collar tie. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I like to take my hand, instead of holding his tricep, I'll come up underneath his armpit. Okay, so if you take it from this view, okay, I step in and I come up underneath his armpit like this, and that's going to be helpful in shrugging the shoulder and pushing him forward. Okay, now let me spin back around. What I do with myself is I take my head out of that pocket and I face the same direction he's facing. I let go of his head and grab his wrist. Okay, and this is called a Russian arm tie or a 2-on-1 because I have two hands on one arm. In wrestling, the Russians tend to use this an awful lot because as Americans, we like to shoot and we'll do these leg attacks all the time. Well, the definition of a leg attack is when a person attacks a leg. The Americans don't really realize that you don't really have to go to your knees to do a leg attack. We always like to shoot a high crotch here, or a single leg here, or a double leg here. We're always putting ourselves at an extreme disadvantage by going down to our knees. In wrestling, it's not so bad because we start here in a low stance, in a striking stance. Well, like a snake would strike from, coiled up. But in martial arts, people are standing up, protecting their head. You're in no position to shoot a low shot. So the Russians' philosophy comes into play here, and it would be a big advantage to kind of utilize, because instead of shooting on a guy and putting yourself underneath them with all their weight on top of you, where both their hands are free to combat you and both your hands are tied up on their legs, which are very strong, the Russians will attack one arm. And now I have two hands against one. He's a one-armed man over here, and he has no weight on me. If he gets out, I lost nothing. Okay, so if we come into a collar tie and I grab this and Dave fights his way out of here, there's very little offensive maneuvers that he can do. I know of two. Okay, I only know of two counters for that, and I know of about 15 moves from it, so it's a big advantage. Okay, so you grab his left arm with two hands, okay, and then later on we're going to go over a couple different ways to use this really quickly so that he can't do anything to me with that free hand over there. Okay, so that's called a Russian arm tie. Going off the same fundamental movement of a Russian arm tie is a guide by. Okay, and a guide by is a move that's been really kind of picking up in use in college and the Division I level, because so many Big 10 kids and so many Big 12 kids are so heavy on a collar tie that it's hard. They're so heavy and tight on a collar tie that's hard to fight inside. Okay, in wrestling, if a guy has a collar tie, we're taught to fight inside and get this arm to here. That's really hard to do on a kid that's sole purpose in life is to keep his elbow in. So what we start doing is we capture the two bones in the elbow right there. And you want to use these 3 fingers, they're the strongest. You use those 2 bones right there, and you push into the opponent. When he pushes back, okay, what you're going to do is guide his arm in front of your body. So I turn my legs like this, lower my level, and push his arm past me. Okay? And so we call it a guide by. But it's a good way to use his forward pressure if he's pushing forward and his inward tilt of his elbow to your advantage. Instead of trying to pull it out and get your hand inside or get underneath, okay, if you're trying to pull this out and he keeps winging his elbow in, okay, what I can do is put my thumb and fingers right here on the crook of his elbow, just where I can feel that bone below. That gives you a good handle. And what I'm going to do is jump my feet, lower my level, shrug my shoulder, and push his arm down. Okay, and from here in college, you'll see a lot of guys hit a high crotch. What I would do is push the hand down, go for the waist, or push the hand down and go for a high single if I was teaching mixed martial arts, which is what I happen to be teaching now. So what I would suggest in this position is guide him by and go for a high single right here. Your hands cross. As you take that collar tie and you push it past, you're going to attack the top of this leg. Okay, instead of dropping your knees, you push right here and you step up. This is another one of those moves that's absolutely 0 risk. If I don't get it, I'm standing on my feet right in front of Dave. No harm, no foul. If I miss it and he squares up, we're fine. All I did was clear the collar tie, which is the original goal. So along with the guide by, a similar move that you can do, it's a similar motion. Instead of guiding by in a steady way like this, what we call it is a post off. Okay, the guy has a collar tie. If you lean back, his arm extends. Okay, you have to push off him to do this, to hold him still. And as you lean back, his arm straightens. So what you can do there is come up, grab his elbow, take your free hand and grab his wrist. Okay, so one hand's grabbing the elbow, one hand's grabbing the wrist, and we're going to do what's called a post off. I'm going to take his arm and post it off of me right across in front of him. And when I do that, I'm going to lower my level. So it looks kind of like this. I'll lean back a little bit and then and post it off right across in front of me, and I'm in an attacking position. A good position to hit a double leg, or a good position to come up for a bear hug. Okay? More than shots in MMA, I would suggest going for the hips or going for a bear hug, because when you chase the legs, you have a tendency to wind up on your hands and face down on the mat, and that's a disadvantage. So what I mean by that is if I posted this off by grabbing his tricep right above those bones and making a little room and bringing it across, I would take a shot, but I would aim for his hips and try to get him up there, or aim for a high double. If you shoot to his hips and he sprawls, his hips don't move when he sprawls. His legs move. So if you shoot to his legs and he sprawls, it pulls you down to your face as you're chasing his lower legs. If you shoot to his hips and the guy sprawls his legs, it doesn't affect you. You're still in the same place. In fact, that's one of the things that you guys could start implementing in MMA. If you take a shot to the legs and the guy sprawls, let go of his legs, reach up and grab his waist and bear hug him. Okay, so that's what I would attack. I would attack in between here and here, like a double. Okay? The next thing that I want to teach here, instead of a post off, we're going to go back into a collar tie position. And I'm going to show just a couple little techniques that could give you an advantage and throw the guy off just a little bit, make him feel uncomfortable. Okay? And what you have to understand about this is when you're in a collar tie position, every wrestler, every MMA person will have like a home base. And you can feel that right away. They're going to want to pull you to a position and hang out there. That's their technique, that's their strategy. So let's say Dave pulls me into this position and is hanging out here. One of the things that I may want to do is say, I don't want to be where he wants me to be. I want to put him somewhere where he's uncomfortable. So if I don't feel like just hanging out here and stalling for a while, okay, what I can do is take his head and push it towards his arm and put my head on the opposite side. Okay, and there are some good ways to whip a guy around and make him feel off balance here, using your hips. Use very little motion with your hands and start moving your hips, and you can whip the guy around and move him and make him feel very uncomfortable. Okay, one of the ways is right here. Okay, I'm gonna grab, he has a collar tie. I'm gonna grab the upper portion of his arm right there and weld it to my chest. Okay, and then I'm gonna pick my head up and push his head right across in front of my face, like that. Okay, as I do that, I'm gonna try to make his eye kind of go right into his bicep here, and then I'm gonna circle backwards and lower my level. And it's gonna drag him around on the mat. So I weld his arm to my chest, I back up, I get his head to his arm, and I start pulling. Okay, and Dave will tell you that's pretty heavy down and forward, and he can't keep up. And a lot of times you'll get the guy to really feeling off balance there. And it takes very little energy, there's zero risk, and it's a way for you to make him feel very insecure about grabbing your head and tying you up and trying to stall. So again, what I did, the basic idea here is I'm putting my head on the other side. He likes his head to be here, he's used to this. The second I do that, he feels weird. Okay, by welding this arm to my chest, I lock him in. If I do this and I don't do anything with his arm, he's just gonna let go. By pulling his arm to my chest, lifting my head up and putting him over on this side, he can't let go. And now I'm gonna make him pay a little bit and kind of make him feel stupid. So I pull him around a little bit and make him feel like, hey, I really don't like that. This guy has something I'm not comfortable with in there. Okay, so then if he comes back and grabs it again, it's very easy to just do the same thing and pick your head back, push his head across, and start pulling him. Or you can start to do that, and if he lets go, you switch your hands, grab his other arm, and pull him on the other side. Okay, so now I call this, I tell my wrestlers at home, it's like steering a wheel on a bus. You have at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, you watch the bus driver do this, and they do that, you do this. That's how you steer a bus. Your hands go around like this. So if I grab an inside tie and I pull down, I'm going to push his head over. And when I let go and I switch, I turn him that way. So if I can get an inside tie like this with a collar tie, okay, I can attack his head and his arm. And I pull this arm down and I push this head over, just like I'm steering that wheel. When I do that, I back up. And that makes Dave real off balance and real uncomfortable. He picks his head up real hard, okay, fights it. I let go with my left hand, move to his tricep. I let go with my right hand, move to his head, circle him the other way. Okay, so I wind up boom, 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 and you're moving this guy all over the place. He's getting tired. He's feeling uncomfortable.
And silly.
And silly.
He's like,
and
oh
silly.
man, I'm getting tossed everywhere.
Yep. So you can get a guy off balance, you can set him up for moves, and you can make him not want to go to the tie that he traditionally likes to hang out in. That's the way to take a guy completely out of his game. All right. Next thing we're going to focus on is a double collar tie or Muay Thai clinch. Okay, so the guy has his arms locked around my head. One thing you don't want to do here is back up, because he can pull me down really hard with those two hands on the back of my neck. If I back up, I'm gonna put myself in a position that bends me over and opens me up to just about anything. So if anything, you want to push a guy back. If a guy has his hands on your head, he can't stop you from pushing him backwards at all. So if I were in a fight, if I were in the cage, and someone put me in a Muay Thai clinch, I'd back him all the way against the cage. And that way he has no freedom or liberty to pull me around. I'd have him jammed against the cage so he can't kick, he can't knee, he can't do anything. And the reason is because when his arms are up and over, he's trying to pull. He has nothing to push with at all. So what I would do, he's in this position, I'd put a hand underneath here to protect myself, and I would just start pushing him back. Once I got him into the wall, now he can't really knee me because he's backed into the wall. When the guys knee, they need to be able to move. They need to be able to move back to pull you down and then execute. So what I would do in this position is jam an arm up underneath his arms. That stops him from pulling. Pull your arms down there. Okay, that stops him right there. It's like shoving a crowbar in there. Jam him forward, keep my elbow high, get my knee in here, and then once I got him to the wall, I'd work for a Russian tie. Okay, I already got my arm in like we did before. I'd bring my hand up like this, shrug my shoulder, boom, pull his arm across, and now he lost the clinch. And you hold that pretty tight there, Dave. You're gonna see it's really hard to clear this arm. Okay, it's easy to clear this one here. So don't worry about clearing the tough one. Clear one, and now he's only a one-armed collar tie. That's easy. Once he has two, and you try to work on this, this is weak. See that? If you pull that all day, there's no point. Fight the one that's towards you. Right now, I got this arm in a crappy position. I take advantage of that. His arm is like this. He's weak there because I'm using my shoulder, I'm using my arm. So what I'll do is I jam that knee in, work to the side, get this arm off. Now he's just one-arm guy. Okay, so the Muay Thai clinch thing is gone. Okay, so again, guy double collar ties. I'm gonna block, okay, and I'm gonna jam him and I'm gonna run him forward. You could even pull his arms together up at the top, okay, or try to pull one arm down because you don't want him to be able to circle. So basically, the guy's trying to pull you back, and you're going to run him back faster than he can pull you back. Because think about it this way, he's running backwards, he's moving back, and he's going to try to pull and pull, okay? If I try to stay on my ground, I'm going to get yanked. But I can run faster front than he can run back. So what I'm going to do is jam him where I want to push him. So here, get him up here against the wall, shrug the shoulder, pull his arm off. Okay, then we'll go into some of the Russian arm tie moves. That's what I'd recommend for a double collar tie. Push them back. For my wrestlers, if any wrestlers are watching this, you're not going to get kneed. You're just getting stalled against. So what I always recommend to wrestlers who are getting double collar tied is grab elbows, put your chin underneath, or put your forehead underneath his chin, and run him off the mat. Okay, and if he tries to push forward at all, hit a duck under or hit a high crotch. So in other words, he's pulling me down. He wants me to try to get my head out. He wants to see me like this so he can just wear on my back. If he's pulling down on my head and I do this, he can't stop me. If he tries to, I have high crotches and duck unders that I can hit as soon as he starts pushing in. Just control those two elbows, head under the chin, and push. But for MMA, you're going to have to block. So it's a little different because you can get kneed. Okay, so find a way to pinch, push, all at the same time, and then clear once he's against the wall, or against the cage. Okay? Yeah, you're gonna jam that way, hold that. So I can't really do anything here because I can't move. So one thing he doesn't want to do is let me circle. Because what I can do is push his leg and then circle him. That's gonna be one of your best bets, is to try to get him off balance and get out from the wall so you have some mobility again. Right here, you want to try to take your head and turn that. Yeah, that's what you want to do with that arm. Go ahead. And if he's doing that, I don't know. Once he gets a Russian tie, I have two counters. And one of them I could do from here. And that is, I could give him the Russian arm tie, and once he pulls that tight, I can grab his head and sweep that leg, and lift and sweep. But I don't know, maybe that's a good counter. So if I'm here and he pushes me into the wall, maybe I feed him a Russian arm tie. In other words, take that collar tie off that he's trying to beat and hand it to him here. Okay, and once he has that, a Russian arm tie isn't something you usually want to push with. Usually you want to pull with it. So all his moves are going to be, he wants to own your arm, so he's going to pull it into him. So one of the counters that I know is he grabs your wrist, you know, and you're going to pull that wrist back in towards your body, and he ain't going to let you pull it, so that's going to pull his body behind yours, which is what you want. You want to load him onto that left hip so that you can throw him. Okay, and it's just like before we went over from a chest-to-chest position. You're going to step in, you're going to load him onto your hip, lift, and then sweep. So go ahead and hold that collar tie pretty tight, Dave. Okay, I step in, I hook, and I lift and sweep. And that could work, and it possibly could not too. That's one of those moves that's I like the Russian because all that other stuff to counter, it's really hard to get. The other counter to a Russian would be possible in this position too. So let's start from the clinch again. Okay, if Dave counters my Muay Thai clinch and I feed him a Russian, the other counter that I know to a Russian is to grab this guy's far elbow, and I'm gonna jump to the side. I'm gonna cut his body in half. So if I look right between his legs, right now I'm right in the middle. I wanna totally get an angle and jump over there. I'm gonna hit a left-handed double leg. Okay, so I grab this knee, he's got his head in position, he's got a tight, hold on to that thing pretty tight to your body. I grab his elbow, and what I'm gonna do is hop over here. That splits his body in half. I'm gonna pull my elbow back as hard as I can and pull his elbow back as hard as I can. And what that'll do is kind of turn his body away like this so that I can attack that near side. Okay, so he's in this position, he's got me pinned against the wall. Okay, I'm gonna grab his arm, I'm gonna hop over here, I'm gonna pull his elbow in this position, and that may also work. You always want to have a game plan, so you got to work on something in there.
Yeah.
A lot of times just trying something will stop him from doing what he wants to do. So if the guy wants to use a clinch, you push him back and start working for a Russian, right away he could possibly stop kneeing you and start thinking, what's this guy doing to me? You know, but if you just stand there with no plan, you're done. So a lot of times just doing something is better than doing nothing. So that's what I would do for the Muay Thai clinch, and if I was countering it, I'd be working for some kind of counter to the Russian top.